Do you want more clients in less time? Right now? You want clients right now, right? We want clients right now. And you want them without getting distracted all over the place, losing focus, and wanting to really focus on the income generating sales in your business. Well, if this is you, then you have come to the right place, and welcome. I'm Fritz, and I help high vibe female entrepreneurs to attract clients, high ticket clients, without hours and hours of mindset work, using subconscious reprogramming and energetic alignment. So welcome to this 3-day training all about productivity, optimizing your flow so you can get more and more clients. So I'm just going to make sure that we are definitely live. So just bear with me for a moment, because I have gone live before without the, what is happening? So I apologize. The lighting is not going to be the best, but what can we do? Okay, perfect. So I apologize. Okay. Yay. Let's get to it, shall we? So if you are here, say hi. So the whole concept of these 3-day trainings is all about productivity, right? Because wouldn't you agree that if we get more things done during the day, we'll get more clients, right? In less time, we'll be able to free up our time, and then we'll just feel very fulfilled and feel like we're on fire because we're accessing that flow state. And this is really what these 3 days are all about. And I get it, you're super busy, you own a business, you run a business, and I'm going to make all of these 3 trainings super quick for you because you're busy, and I get it. I'm going to deliver this information as rapidly and as quickly as possible. And at the end of each day, you'll actually have one prompt, because we learn best when we take action on the information we consume. So I'm going to make this very quickly, deliver this very quickly, as fast as possible, so you can start taking action and building up that momentum to make you more productive and gain more clients faster, right? Because the best way we learn is through implementation. And we are not here to mess around, right? We are here to shift. We are here to get more clients and make that impact faster. So let us just begin. So the other day, funnily enough, the alignment, I was listening to this podcast, and this podcast was all about brain health and, optimizing our brain health. And so it's a really cool podcast. And in this podcast, the host, Jim Quick, he talks about learning and how we learn fast, because that is his goal, to be able to teach people to learn faster. And the thing that he said that really resonated was that when we go to something, either when we start a course, when we go into a new training, we start a new program, the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to admit that we don't know anything, and really start with that beginner's mindset and come from that beginner's mindset where we're coming from a place where we pretend that we don't know anything, because that is what makes us learn faster. And like that saying, pretend that you're the dumbest person in the room. And I know that this is hard for a lot of people. Like, it really hurts our ego to admit that we don't know anything, right? But this is the actual ideal state to learn from. And so my suggestion for you is to really get into this beginner mindset, not just for this training, but for anything that you do in your entire life. If you're learning a new skill, pretend that you have never ever done it before, even though you have, and you will learn something a lot more powerful and something a lot more, and you'll get to see perspectives that you didn't get to see before. It's actually such a powerful thing to be able to get into that. I have grown so much in the past few months by really diving into that beginner's mindset, right? So let's just begin. Are we working still? Yes, we are. Okay. So first, I'm going to talk to you about the concept of focus and attention, because we can all agree that if we have crystal clear focus, then our attention is better, and then we are more productive, right? So I'm going to explain to you the actual concept of focus, attention, and concentration based on neuroscience. And a lot of the things that I'm going to teach you throughout these 3 days are actually concepts and principles at the very, very deep level, because when you learn what the principles are, when you learn exactly what it is and how things work, then you can apply your own very unique skill to it, right? Because we can all learn techniques, but the techniques are useful for some, but not for others. So by teaching you the actual basic principles, you can get to take that principle and use it for you. And that is really the goal here, right? And so in our brain, we have this area that is involved with focus, and this part of our brain that's like in our brainstem at the top of our spinal cord, it's called the reticular activating system, or RAS. So I'm going to refer to this because this is a really fascinating area of our brain. It's located right up here, and all of our senses except for smell, so all the 4 senses except for smell, so the sight, hearing, taste, and touch, they all come in through the reticular activating system. Our smell goes somewhere else. Our smell goes into the emotional center of our brain. That's a topic for a different training, but we're going to focus on the RAS. So our sight, our hearing, our taste, our touch all comes in through our RAS. And this part of our brain is actually involved with our sleep-wake cycle, and it is involved with our focus and our attention. And interestingly, this part of our brain actually connects our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. And this is going to be very important because this is where all the concepts are going to come into place in the next 3 days. And this is going to be a very important concept. Are you ready for it? So our RAS, its job is to actually filter out, or bring to light whatever it is that we want to pay attention to, or what we want to look for. So it filters it out. The main word here is filter. That's the key word, right? It filters everything out. So people who actually lack focus are the ones who are actually unable to effectively filter out what they do not want to focus on. So a lot of people think that focusing is putting a lot of energy on the one thing. As a matter of fact, it is actually about filtering everything out that we do not need. So it's not putting energy on one thing, it's filtering out the shit that we don't need. And isn't that interesting, right? And it's not about placing it on one energy, it's more placing everything on one energy. Like we think that focusing on one, but it's actually about removing, taking away the things that do not need to be done. And this is going to be the concept for the next 3 days, which is really, really interesting. And I'm going to focus on this. And so another concept that I want to talk to you about is the focus of something called attention cycling. So we as humans are actually evolved to not be able to focus on one thing. And here is why. When we were in our caveman days, when we hunted, when we gathered, we needed our attention to cycle. We needed to get distracted. Why? Because if we were one of those tribal man or woman who were on top of the tree picking up the fruit, we need to be able to not only focus on the attention of picking up the fruit, but we also need to take our attention away from what we're doing and focus on something else, just in case that saber-toothed tiger comes and runs after us, right? This is a survival mechanism, and being able to get distracted is actually a survival mechanism that has served us back in the day. So this is an important thing. It's all about just taking a distraction and then bringing it back to what you want to focus on, and filtering out that particular distraction. So that is the concept. That is how our brain works. And how do we apply this now? I'm going to summarize it. So being focused, concentrating, wanting to place attention on something, being productive actually has to do with filtering things out instead of putting energy on one thing. It's being able to take all the distractions out and take all of the things that we don't need out, so that you can do the one thing that you are going to do. And I know these days that this is completely difficult, right? Because social media trained us this way. Social media is making us distracted with all the notifications. And so I can appreciate how hard it is to filter those things out. But once you focus on actually taking things away that we don't need, which is the focus on the 3 days, that is what is going to give you the clarity. That is what's going to give you the focus and the concentration and the productivity that you need. And isn't that super cool? Isn't that a completely kind of counterintuitive process? But it really is one of those things where not a lot of people know. So let us filter things out. So knowing that, does that make sense? Do you think it's cool? Because I think this is super cool. I think it's super cool that we have this filtration system in our brains that filters literally millions of things that are happening to make us focus on one thing. And so when you wrap your head and your mind around the concept that focus is all about taking shit out, this is going to change your life. It definitely has with me. So knowing that attention and focus and productivity is all about filtration and filtering things out, how do we optimize this? Right? So I like to think of this as the dishwasher, right? We have a dishwasher, and it's completely up to us if we put dishes that are completely dirty, or we can wipe the things off, like wipe the extra dirt out of the dishes, the pots and pans first, put them in the garbage, and then bring them into the dishwasher. You can do whatever you want with it, right? And either way, it will still clean plates. The efficiency of that really is dependent on what we choose to do, right? Do we clean the plates out first, or we do not? But the thing is, if we choose not to clean the plates out, it takes a lot of energy. Unless you have like one of those really super cool dishwashers, but it takes a lot of energy from the dishwasher to take it out because it's got a lot more shit to take out, right? And so we can either rinse our plates or not rinse our plates. But wouldn't it be much easier to just rinse our plates first before putting it in the dishwasher? Because have you ever taken a clean dish out, but it's not really clean? You got to clean it again. You got to wash it again because like everything's just stuck because we didn't rinse it, right? It happens all the time. Every time we run a dishwasher, there's always like a few like plates that are not as clean. And then you have to put more effort into cleaning it again. Not efficient, right? So this is the concept that we're going to talk about now. And in particular, I'm going to talk about the emotional resistance today. So have you ever procrastinated in your life? Right. Everyone else. We have delayed something. We have procrastinated on something. We have delayed something in our lives, or multiple things, right? And procrastination is a hot topic. It's a very interesting concept because I like to think about doing tasks in our business this way. It's all about the river flowing, right? So if I were to unexpectedly put you in a river, you've got a few choices. One is to either really just try swim and exert a lot of energy swimming, or we can just go with the flow and flow with the current. There's no right or wrong. There can be multiple limitless possibilities. You can either swim a lot and then realize that there's no point and just go with the flow, or you can start going with the flow and then swim a little bit just to make sure that you're doing the right thing and then start flowing again. There really is a lot of possibilities, right? And everything, like with life, is really just a choice. And when we delay something, when we procrastinate something, it really is just that same feeling of resistance, that same feeling of swimming against the current, because that resistance is there for a reason. That is an emotion that needs to be felt or dealt with. And a lot of people think when they get to this point that it feels like a mindset block, right? But I actually have stopped calling it that. I started calling it resistance, because with resistance, by using the word resistance, it's much easier. It's much easier pill to swallow than a block. And with resistance, resistance is an emotion, and as an emotion, and emotion is energy in motion, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can just be transformed or shifted. And this is what we can do with this, right? Resistance can always be shifted. A block is not there to be removed. A block, aka resistance, is there to be shifted into something else once we address it. And I also like to think about is, if you're a Harry Potter nerd like me, it's, you know, in the first movie, the first book, where, you know, Harry, Ron, and Hermione have this wonderful adventure to get the Philosopher's Stone. They get dropped into this plant, this big plant that's very viney, and it's called Devil's Snare. And in Devil's Snare, it catches them, and the vines start entangling them, and it's starting to make them feel like they're bound, right? Like it's starting to suffocate them. And then Hermione goes, "This is Devil's Snare, and if you don't relax, it'll just kill you faster," which is very counterintuitive, right? So Hermione is telling Ron and Harry to relax, and she relaxes. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm bound," but she relaxes, and then she gets, you know, flown down, and then she's fine. And then she yells at Harry and Ron to just relax. Ron doesn't relax, Harry relaxes. So anyways, the point of it is that it's like the resistance that we're feeling, that block that we're feeling, that fear, that anxiety, whatever it is that you feel when you want to procrastinate on delay or something, that is resistance. That is emotion that needs to be felt. And when we resist it, the more it will persist. Kind of like Devil's Snare, the more you try to fight it, the more it'll kill you faster. So it's pretty much just that. It's that concept where I know how difficult it can be to really face that part of us that we don't want to face, because it's painful. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun to see those dark parts of us. It's not fun to face those fears, but those fears are there for a reason. Those are a survival mechanism, right? Our subconscious mind talks to us through feelings and emotions and metaphors and all of that. So if that fear comes up, if that emotion comes up, there is a reason for that. And it's knowing exactly what to do with that can really boost our productivity. Because I don't know about you, but if I were to work when I have minimal resistance, I can't focus, right? So it's really being able to do that first. And although I can appreciate how hard it is important to address that first, because if not, that kills productivity. That makes things slower. And it actually doesn't take that much time, because I have formulated 3 steps, 3 very simple steps for you to help you reduce that resistance quickly. Is this making sense right now? Okay. So how do we reduce this resistance, right? How do we reduce the resistance from being productive? How do we filter out the emotional resistance? So there are 3 steps, and I'm gonna give you the 3 steps first, and then I'm gonna give you plenty of examples afterwards. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna apply this to something that you feel resistance on. And you have that one thing that you want to be doing, but you're avoiding it. There's always that one thing. There might be multiple things, but right now, as I'm talking to you, this one thing that you're resisting. So you can apply these 3 steps to it. Okay. First step, awareness. Just knowing that you are delaying something or putting something off or really just delaying something. That awareness is key. That is the first step. And this is always something that we get to be better at, right? And just being able to acknowledge that we're avoiding something painful is the first step, and the most important step out of all of it. Being able to to really take that ego out of the equation and looking at ourselves and saying, girl, you are avoiding something. It's time to face it. This is difficult. Most people don't get to this step. They don't allow themselves to get to this step, but this is the most important step. And it's really just simple. Just acknowledge it. That is the first step, because this is the hardest step. And the second is to explore what that is about, to diagnose what that is about. What is this resistance or this feeling or this anxiety or this fear or this worry telling me? What is, like, and really explore, get into your body, get into that feeling, where that is in your body, and really explore what that is about, because that is actually protecting you. Some people call it sabotage, and yes, it could, and yes, it definitely is part of sabotaging, but at the same time, it's also there with a purpose. So what is the purpose of it? Why is it there? What is the role of it? So you get to ask yourself that question. And then the third thing, once you have explored what that really is about, once you know what that feeling is telling you, then you get to act. So awareness, diagnose, and act. And in this action, it doesn't have to be this one big thing. You want to focus on one thing right now to help you alleviate or neutralize the resistance that you're feeling. So let me give you an example. So back in November, October, November, that time last year, I wanted to offer an intensive, and I was procrastinating. I really didn't want to do it. Like it was something that I wanted to do a flash sale on an intensive. I part of me was really, really excited for it, really, really wanted it. But I procrastinated. I was like, I don't know. And it got down to the wire where I really needed to start, doing it, right? And so being aware that I was delaying this thing, that it was getting down to the wire of the dates that I wanted to set, I looked at myself in the eye and asked myself, Fritz, what is this about? And what it was really about was that, so this intensive was launched in the first week of November, and in October, sometime in October, I had a launch and it flopped. And it completely flopped, didn't do that well, and it was not a fun time. And that was what it was about. Me procrastinating on the intensive that I was really excited about was because I had a previous launch that flopped. I've had many previous launches, but for some reason that one just really hit me deep, and I was really afraid to flop again, right? I was afraid to do it again and no one would buy, and that would not make me feel good. It would make me feel not good enough. What if my offer isn't that great? It made me feel all those feelings, right? And so knowing that that was what it was about, knowing that that was the fear of the rejection, the fear of judgment, of having another failed launch, or etc., whatever the story I was making up in my mind, once I was aware of that and once I was really in tune with that, I asked myself, well, what do I need to do to ease this? And back then I was really working with amazing clients. And, that week I was working with them and it really lights me up. Working with clients really lights me up. I freaking love it. I love it so much. It's my most favorite part, being able to help someone shift, just like me. And so as I was working with clients, that was the one thing I did. My one thing that I needed to act on was just be present in my delivery with clients. And, and of course, guess what happens? It gave me that fulfillment. It gave me the satisfaction. It made me feel good. It shifted that fear into fulfillment as to why I really was doing what I wanted to do. And I wanted more of that, right? I wanted more clients. So instead of the fear taking over about, what if I fail another launch, the feeling of, actually working with clients and clients having amazing results, that's what drove me to finish that planning. And so of course, as I went through that whole process of marketing the intensive, boom, got a client, right? And it can really, really be that easy. It can be that easy. And so that's the emotional part of it. And then I'll give you another example that is actually very, very typical in the coaching and entrepreneur online industry. So one of my clients that I was working on had a resistance. It wasn't really a block, because I don't call it blocks anymore. It's just resistance. So one of my clients had this resistance with talking about one of her particular offers, her highest ticket program in her product suite. And she really wanted to have more sales with that, because it really, it's very intensive. It's great to work with clients at that capacity. And obviously it's a high ticket, so more sales, right? But she had the resistance talking about that offer. And when we explored what that was really about, it was about, it was never, ever about that offer. That offer is really freaking amazing. And she knew that. But she had a bad experience with one client from that particular offer. So when we have bad experiences with anything, our subconscious mind kind of locks into certain things within that. So for her, she had an offer that was really, really great, but a bad client came into that program. And so what happened was that she associated this program, bad client. So therefore, I don't want any bad clients, might as well not talk about the offer, right? That is the association that we make in our minds. And it happens often. It happens to all of us. And so when we address that, didn't it just make sense that she found a solution? Because it's not really, one bad client, really amazing program. Does that make sense to really just cancel out the program? No, it doesn't make sense. So a solution was for her to set firmer boundaries with her clients, so that when a particular bad client comes, it doesn't ruin that program. So by setting boundaries, which was a solution that she formed on her own, and what type of boundaries that she wanted to place was completely up to her, because it's her business. Once she formulated that, and once everything clicked in her mind, boom, she got sales effortlessly with that same offer. Nothing changed with the offer, but by reducing the resistance with that offer was what allowed for more sales to come. And within that month, she had her highest income month ever. Pretty exciting stuff, right? It's these micro shifts. They call it quantum leap for a reason, because it's these small shifts that really make a difference with how we attract clients. That shift, to me, wanting more clients instead of the fear of failing, that tiny shift, that micro shift, was what allowed for results to come fast. And so for both of those, a really good, quick perspective was what was needed. And that's why these 3 steps are so easy, because you can keep on practicing them and you get better and better at them. You get better and better at assessing what that really is all about. Sometimes, for the first time you do it, it might take you longer, but with time, you get to know your patterns very, very easily, and you'll get to know what it's about. And so these 3 steps aren't just for emotional resistance that you're feeling, it's also for, logical things. Let me give you an example. I'm really dry. So say you're getting distracted, you're working, it's afternoon, you're working, and then you're just distracted, your brain hurts, your eyes are a little bit sore and tired, and you're starting to get a headache, and you're like, oh, nothing's, I'm just not being productive, nothing is happening, right? That awareness is the first key, and the second is diagnose, right? You stop and you go, why is everything not working? Why am I not getting shit done? And then you look at the clock and you go, oh my God, it's been 3 hours since I've moved my body. I've been stuck here at my desk sitting for 3 hours. No wonder, right? No wonder. So what can you do at that moment to shift, to make sure you get more done? Well, what you could do is that if you're feeling a headache, you're having an eye strain, you haven't moved around for 3 hours, it's time to move around. It's time to change scenery. It's time to get your eyes off the screen. So something as logical as that can really also make a big difference. It's about working with both, right? It's about emotion and logic working at the same time. That is when you get fast results. So when you move around, and this has happened to me many times where I just like, oh, it's just no words are coming out. Like I have no inspiration for content. And I look at the clock, 3 hours, nothing. And I'm like, well, duh, like I need to move around. I'm someone who needs to be moving around. I'm quite fidgety. So by moving around, just, getting something to eat, making a tea, 5 minutes, 2 minutes is all that it takes to interrupt that pattern for you to start in a state of flow. And 99.999% of the time, it does work. So something as quick and logical as that can actually help as well. So let me review the 3 things again. So awareness, diagnose, and act. Very, very, very easy, but such a big shift will happen in your business when you start implementing this. And of course, our brains learn by action, right? Not consumption. So you have just consumed some details here. You have consumed a lot. And if you're, I know. Let me ask you this. Are you someone who wants clients fast? You do, right? More clients fast. And do you want to be that badass who's just productive and achieving goals very, very quickly? You want to be someone that's just on fire every day. Then take action. Use these 3 steps to help you optimize that filtration system. Your brilliant mind already does it. These 3 steps, do this for the resistance, the biggest resistance that you're feeling in your business right now. You know what I'm talking about. That one thing that you've been avoiding. Use these three steps to help you gain focus, because if you don't, the more you resist, the more it'll persist, right? And the more you try to distract yourself from it, the more it will try to haunt you and come back. So use these 3 steps for that resistance so that you start getting more shit done right now, today, like right now. And this is actually your homework, right? This is your growth work, let's just say. So what is something that you're resistant to? And then take these 3 steps, be aware that you're avoiding it. That's a good job. And then really diagnose and see what that is all about and what that resistance is telling you. And once you do that, be in tune with yourself and ask yourself, what is one thing that you can do right now to help you alleviate or neutralize this feeling? And let the answers come. Let that intuitive answer come. That answer might be counterintuitive, but it will be the exact thing that you need to be doing right now. So start listening. This is training you to trust yourself more, to believe in yourself more. So let's take it a level deeper, right? A level higher. So when you do this, once you think about that and go through this, another way to learn fast and to really retain the information fast is to teach it. So now you're teaching this to yourself. Now you get to teach it to others. So another part of this growth work is to share it. So you can teach yourself even better by posting it here in this group. So you can either do it in the comments or you can do it in a separate post. Would love to see that, because when you go through these 3 steps, not just in your mind, but actual writing it down and posting it, that takes you another level, and that just reprograms your mind to do it again and again and again. And in no time, you'll just be able to know exactly what it is and shift out of that resistance really quickly. Because like I said before, if you commit to this, this is really quick and simple practice multiple times a day, it doesn't take that long, your whole life and your whole business will change, because it has for me and it has for my clients. So go out there, shift that resistance so you can keep on building your kick-ass empire and keep crushing it. And I cannot wait to watch you crush it.